Everything's still quiet. So welcome to the World Work Tape Group 2024. So we continue with the tape group, but in a different form, and that's really lovely because it's like this for me is the real start of something. I don't know how it is for you, but we finished the book here. The world is new, and now we start our world work. So that's an interesting step, of course, and it's good. It's great because the world is new. But when? When is the world new? Like we can say that, but we will discover that as an experience of ourselves. Now it's not all about this mud ball, you could say, mud ball floating around in the universe, but it is like world work is about our world as you see it, as you experience it, as you make everything part of it. And that's where it becomes interesting in terms of, well, how can it become new? So this is something that we stand still with today on different levels. And it goes really deep, actually, right from the start, because the book that we're going to use is this one. It's like The Government of Eden of Joel, is a book that is about deep stuff. It is not an easy to read book of Joel, but it's a great for study. And study specifically for very specific things, you could say, very specific subjects. And these subjects can be very revealing if you allow them to tell them what they actually mean. And what that's supposed to mean, we will discover, of course. But it has everything to do with the video that we're going to watch later. That is Obedience to Truth. It's like a closed class from Adelaide. Just say the day before he starts to teach how to heal. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know these tapes. So this is the tape just before that. And in fact, he makes a start with how you are healing. So it's like it is an instructive video already, partially. But the most important part of it is the obedience to truth. Now, I'm very much aware of terms like obedience, authority. That doesn't sound like freedom. Not in my ears. When I look at it, it's like, well, that doesn't sound too nice. And authority, either, that is not so popular either, huh? So but these represent something that you miss. Otherwise, you would experience it as totally loving, total self-recognition in that. Seeing that it's your ultimate freedom to be a co-creator. Now these parts are really fundamental. So one of the things that will start to happen too is this idea of authorship, like authorship. So if you look, for instance, at the conflict that is taking place in the world or in your own world, in your relationships and your daily experience of yourself, the authority idea is related to all of the conflict that you are experiencing. Like there's an authority problem. And this is very simple, in fact, but it's something that you really don't necessarily want to look at, and that has to do with the authorship. It's like you can accept the idea that God created everything, but if that means that you have to give up what you think you have made, then it seems like a personal attack. Now this is interesting because Joel talks a lot about impersonalization. In fact, impersonalization would be redefined something like taking nothing personal anymore. but knowing, in fact, knowing under which authorship you fall. And having, say, if you stay in a mental plane and the plane of perception, you would always have a conflict of interest. You would always have an authority problem, because there's always someone who also has an idea about the same thing that you're dealing with. And now you can say, like, no, that's not true. And I say, yeah, here's a beautiful example. So it's like every conflict has to do with an idea of authorship. Because if I have an idea about something and you have a different idea about something, well, there you go. So you define the situation like this, I define it like that, and here's our problem. Now, in the realm of soul, that is resolved, because there's only one of us in that sense, and so there's one authority, and the one that created you. Like, you did not make yourself, so all the stories that you make up are not true either. And that makes total sense when I say it like this. Now, this we're going to dive a little bit deeper into, but I could say, like, well, this is a veil to be unveiled. It is something that will definitely, say, make you hungry for a revelation on this subject. And there's every opportunity for that. Now, the world is new, but when? Now, we have two expressions of that I like to show to you. One of them is, and I'm starting with that right away, something that Pierre Michele made, and I love to share it here as a video, because it tells you something. And from there on, we continue further into the idea of the world is new, but when? So let me share that quickly with you. So this is not yet it is a start of contemplation.
Le monde est nouveau. Quand? Contemplation. Quand vous n'avez plus aucune attente du monde. Quand vous le voyez tel qu'il est, de votre propre fabrication. Quand vous voyez avec la vision du Christ en vous. Quand la lumière de votre être éclaire votre conscience. Quand vous pouvez voir la paix que vous pouvez comprendre maintenant rayonner de votre âme. Quand le salut est entré dans chaque cellule de votre corps. Quand le pardon est complet et que la mémoire du temps a disparu. Quand moi et mon Père sommes un, vous emmène là d'où il vient. Quand vous reconnaissez que l'impersonnalisation est complète et englobante. Quand vous voyez que la volonté de Dieu n'a pas d'opposé. Quand vous faites expérience de votre soi, inclus dans l'omniprésence. Quand vous reconnaissez que l'omnipotence est l'univers en constante expansion à l'intérieur. Quand vous pouvez entendre l'omniscience comme le chant de l'univers. Quand il ne reste plus que l'amour de Dieu comme expérience. Quand tu reconnais le Christ dans ton frère. Je suis ce je suis.
C'est maintenant.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was extraordinary. It's like so beautiful. Now you see, if there is no conflict of interest, then sharing is like, yeah, happens automatically. You want to add your joy to what is given, and say, and in fact, the whole idea of authorship then here is you recognize that you're, say, that the same author is at work here. There's only one author, one authorship. And Joel comes with the idea too in what we're going to read in a moment. So maybe I'll pull that up in a second, because it is so fundamental. And yeah, so all conflict is coming from thinking that there are different sources. In fact, like as if there are different story writers here. But the only thing that you do is then, in fact, hold on to your own story in order to want it your way. And that is not going to be productive. You can esteem it as real, but in fact it is nothing, because it has no real source. So this is so fundamental and so beautiful. So we come to that when I start using the book. So yeah, let's fly with that. So I'm going to share some of the ideas about the world work that we're going to do, because in fact this is the introduction moment together for what is world work. How am I supposed to look at that? Why are we doing this? Why are we starting with a tape group with the title World Work? Well, the term is sort of familiar when you're in the infinite way, like world work. And so here in this tape group we use it this way: world work to learn to release any worldly concern, to relinquish human beliefs based on perception, based on individual authorship, to realize where you truly abide and what your true sufficiency is. Fear not, to fear not. So this is also like it will be very comforting, because the relinquishment of human beliefs is a necessary step in order to experience your true sufficiency or God, and to come to the place where you fear not. In this series, this is different than the other tape groups we had before, and this is to make it interactive and to make it even more from you, for you, and in you and with you than ever before. In this series we work with questions and answers. Not a whole session, like not a whole meeting, no, a section from it. It's like half an hour or so. You are invited to some healing work. This is what we do. So before the meeting, 24 hours before, please, you can send in a question, one that is on your heart, really like from your personal life, kind of in your face kind of issue or thing that you think, well, it's not supposed to be there because I'm a spiritual student, but here I am and I'm facing this. Literally, what are you facing? And do you want to share that for healing? Asking for attention and healing. So it is asking, this issue is asking for attention to you, and you want it to be healed because you don't want to be concerned with it. You don't want to be stressing out about it, but you certainly want it to be healed. And maybe that's even the reason why you're here. Well, that's even more wonderful. That's great. So this is really different than the other classes. So we take half an hour, and the questions you send in, it will come back in an answer that will be given in the book, because it's inevitable that the answer will be in there, in the book, The Government of Eden. And so I prepare that. That's why I ask you to send it in before the meeting. Oh yeah, here's some examples in case you don't know what I'm talking about. For instance, relationship issues, bodily concern, grief, concerns about your country, election concerns, financial concerns, and more. Whatever. Yeah, so this is the rest of the... So that makes it really different and more personal, interactive. Because, in fact, you come to the place, like we come to the place of tape group in which we heard hundreds of tapes of Joel. We have heard the message, we have studied, we have looked at it, we have this and that. So it's like, okay, you heard it, but that doesn't mean anything. Of course not. So it's like, no, there's a phase of acceptance, acceptance of the ideas. Like, okay, I've heard it before. Yeah, I've heard it before. But now I'm actually going to accept this idea. And that will do something with me, and there will be a change in my attitude and change in my way of thinking. There will be a change in how I approach things. So, and that phase is one that takes a moment, so we take time to go through that. A bit like this is like, yeah, you've heard it. What am I supposed to tell you? What am I supposed to teach Joel or the Infinite Way for? If you have heard this many times being said, like, that would make no sense to keep repeating that. So you're ready for the next phase for sure, and you're in it for sure. and that's the acceptance of the ideas, acceptance and putting it in practical application. You putting it in practical application, not waiting for someone to instruct you to do so. No, you're actually just starting doing it. Now that's this part, like this world work, is based on the idea of the acceptance of the ideas instead of just, and that causes things to come up in your personal life, because there has to be a conflict there somewhere. Otherwise, you would not be here. So that's as simple as that. And this is just my honest expression, because I know where I'm talking about. I know where I am. I know that, see, the world is new. That is great. The world is new. We saw all the, when is it? Well, this and this situation, that and that situation. You know all of these. You know all of these. But then it is like, but why am I experiencing this? Well, that is what this is about. It's like, okay, so now it's not that we're going to make that situation real that you experience as annoying or as absolutely in the way or who knows what. No, but we're going to allow to take a new look at it in a whole different perspective. Not one that is another idea to solve your human problem. No, we'll bring it back to what is in fact Spirit telling us here. What is in fact what needs to occur? What is the practice? How do you deal with this? And dealing with it not in terms of finding solutions. No, it goes deeper than that. So that's really what this is about. And that makes everything different. So the purpose of this tape group is in that sense totally different. Now, of course, you did not know this yet. Or maybe you have read it on the website but thought like, oh, that's a great idea. And then you go to the next. I read like that, yeah. But at the same time it is, okay, that's starting now. So before next week, if you feel like that, there's no must do at all. It is just like, this is a world work tape group. In other words, it's a spiritual healing class. We don't come here to listen to tapes of Joel. No, the tape group is not meant to be a group effort to listen to tapes of Joel. No, It is it is a possibility for spiritual healing, for recognizing the trueness of you, and coming to know who you are. I am that I am. I want to experience that. How do I get to that? That is the infinite way. That's a tape group. Yeah. So just to make it clear right from the start, why not? Yeah, so this is great. So that was one of the most important things, I think, to show you how we're going to approach this. And then, in fact, I'm starting now with, because we have 2 hours today. So there was the first half hour probably, and not a little bit less. That's wonderful. So now we have an introduction into that. It's going to be like 15 minutes about a very specific part from the first chapter from this book. Obedience to truth, you could say. The title is a little bit different. So the title of the first chapter is The Courageous Choice, Governed by Man or by God. Now here you have it already. It's an authority theme, it's very interesting, authority. So then one of the last parts of this, it's the last part of the first chapter, is obedient awareness. Now that's great. So we're going to use a bit of Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. It's like Hebrews 12 in the New Testament. And we're going to use what is written here by Joel. And with the idea of authorship, or authority, like obedient awareness, so there must be an authority. And I'll come back to that later too with the when is the world new, because there's still more to discover. This is Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. Now, the first verse we're not going to use directly too much, but the second one we definitely do, because it has a word in it. And it's from the King James Version. And I do this because it still feels very authentic. Authentic. Wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us, and let us run with patience the race that is set before us. Now that's an interesting idea, the race that is set before us. Let us run the race. Ever heard it? Like, this is your perseverance to come to Christ's vision, to come to the Christ experience of the I that I am. Run the race. So it's not who's there first, but it has to do with your individual determination, perseverance, to get to it, to let your mind be whole, to let, say, the authorship become total, to let the impersonalization of every idea that you hold be complete, so that there's no personal investment in it, but you recognize it has everything to do with what I am, not with what I do, not with what I think about myself. No, all that can go. This run, see it, it's like lay aside every weight. I love that. Lay aside every weight and the sin which does so easily beset us. So sin in terms of distraction, of thinking that our ideas have any value, or thinking that concerns are a necessity, or thinking that the patterns that you so diligently believe in fulfill a function. And that's what sin is. And let us run with patience the race that is set before us. Run with patience. So this one you run with patience. This race you run with patience. Let this patience become, it's like unlimited. Yeah, unlimited patience. Let this patience become complete. See how you can do a race without doing anything except exercising patience. That's an interesting one, isn't it? So looking unto Jesus and the Christ, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. So this is an interesting expression, of course. So looking unto Jesus, the author, like Christ, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. So the author part then, he's the author and finisher. It's like he's the resurrection and the life. He's the bread of life. And we saw this in the movie, The Gospel of John. It's like, I'm the bread of life. I'm the resurrection. All this. I'm the vine. Everything that he's referring to has to do with totality, with something that has no human aspect whatsoever. So it's like he is the author. And how can he be the author if God is the author? Well, the thing is then, in your total resurrection, in your total impersonalization in the whole process, you come to the place where there is co-authorship. It's like you co-create with God. You become an extension of God. Like Joel says this many times too. It's like you're an extension, you're an instrument of truth. How can an instrument of truth be an instrument if it has all kinds of ideas about itself? It's impossible. So these ideas need to go, these concerns need to go, and all this. It's like everything. What happens when you do that? When you come into your mastership? We saw this in the anthology too. It's like the ultimate thing is that you actually discover the master is one who actually not is entertaining any ideas about himself. Like being completely an open channel, being an open transparency, being himself in the total expression of the divinity of his whole mind. So this is exactly what Jesus represents, the Christ represents. Christ is not a person in that sense, because otherwise you would place him outside yourself. Now the part that we do here in world work is now starting to recognize that is happening in me. There is literally nothing outside of me. It's happening in me, or there is no Christ at all. Like in my awareness is a Christ awareness. If I put away all my toys and concerns and all the things that I think are so important or define me, memories as ideas about myself, and on and on. It's like if I release that, then I come to my co-creatorship, where I recognize everything is given me. Everything is an extension of the love that created me. And there's nothing else that's going to make me that happy. It's like there's nothing else that can compare with it in any kind of way. No matter how many, did it say in Hebrew 1? It's like there's some sin that may come to tempt you, but it has no comparison with the love that is you. So that recognition is going to make you so happy that you will never forget that it's within you. But you will have to, say, claim it for yourself in that sense, to recognize it as your own by allowing the space in your mind, practicing infinite patience, and say persevere for that, to reach that goal of relinquishment of self-identity. Like what isn't held together by your ideas has no reality. So that means that when you release it, that what already is can come to expression. Now, you know this. I know that you know this. And you love to hear it, of course. You have a recognition with it because it's about you. And that's really great. Now in this, in the world work, the thing that we do is accepting this for ourselves. Sounds easy, but you have no idea how to do that. And when you admit that, you save yourself some time. I can tell you that. If you still think that you know how to speed up your process, well, good luck. So this is great. Let me bring Joel in with his words, obedient awareness. God, Joel says, is the author and finisher of our work, of our world. If we look to God, the one mind, the infinite intelligence, the divine love of this universe, we find that regardless of what any individual or group of individuals may appear to be doing in any given moment, in the final analysis, the decision rests with the great author, God, the one mind, and the one soul of the entire universe. Yeah? So that makes sense. So Joel switched it into God is the author and finisher. In Hebrew it said Jesus is the author and finisher of our work. And that here is no conflict, recognizing the source, recognizing the Christ and God as one spirit, one soul, one mind. It makes total sense. So there's no conflict here. If we look to God, one mind, in infinite intelligence and the divine love of this universe, we find that regardless of what any individual group of individuals may appear to be doing at any given moment, in the final analysis, the decision rests with the great author. It's like, well, yeah, that's great. That's great. Like, no, this is about, let's start with the individual. If you allow God to be your inspiration, then there's no conflict. Then there is no final analysis. No, there's an extension of the love of God. There's an expansion taking place. It is part of the script. And not because you think so, or that you have made up the script. No. No, it is the expression of the script, of the authorship. It's like, that's really interesting. So Joel stops here a little bit at the service. It's like he lets everyone do his thing. It's like what any individual or group of individuals do it at any given moment, there will be like a final decision of some kind. And then you can say like, well, it is of course, is it true? Is it a true extension of the love of God? Or is it made up by man or a group of individuals, right? So like when it's made up by a group of individuals or individuals, then it might have a temporary function in the great scheme of things, but not necessarily is the direct expression of the great author, God. See how deep we dive into it here immediately? It's like, wow, that is a subject in the first chapter. Wow. Obedient awareness. These two important points must be carried with you from morning to night and night to morning. What is that? Now you get me interested, Joel. Right identification and reinterpretation. Reinterpret everything you see, hear, taste, touch, smell. Reinterpret it. Translate it into its original state, which is Godhood. Practice right identification. So how are we doing this? Right identification and reinterpretation. Like reinterpret everything you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. It's like you know that your senses are not giving you any information that is in relationship with the truth of you. So the reinterpretation is in fact to recognize it where it takes place. I perceive it with my eyes. So that means that if I take a moment and say dislodge myself a little bit from it for just a second, that I see like, oh wow, I was just taken by this observation. But this observation has no real meaning. It is not reality, because my reality is taking place within me. So you can say that what I just saw was a temptation to make real what isn't, in fact, having a moment of sinfulness, thinking that there's something outside of me that's important, that has power over me. I give authority, or who knows what you do with it. It's like, but that needs to be reinterpreted. It is an observation. It is a perception. It is just a reflection of what came from you. So you take it back because it has no reality, and you want to extend in alignment with God's grace, you could say. Like you want to extend with the author of the big picture, and ask for it. Like, show me what that is, or what am I supposed to do? How is this supposed to look? And all of these steps, like you give everything away, because you cannot really reinterpret it except bringing it to source, you could say. You cannot reinterpret it because you did reinterpret everything all the time, but you're not able to really take a different look at it unless you give it away and let it to spirit and let it be revealed to you, if that is what you need to do with it at that point. So this is really fundamental, and it's great that we start with that right away. So this, if you relate that to an idea of a world, is like, well, I don't know about you, but I get a lot of information on my phone, and I look at news apps and see, oh, this is happening. And what does my mind do? Is like, oh my God, that should not be happening, right? You're going to respond to it. Like, oh, I hope that doesn't work, or that's not going to work out, or I hope they stop doing that, or this. Or, you have all kinds of expectations about the things that you're seeing, and you have your wishes. In other words, you give that already to the world with your so-called good intentions before even you have let it be reinterpreted. So this is the thing that we're going to learn. It's like to go to say, win this race, as it says in Hebrew, like to win this race to the Christ awareness. I have to practice patience. So I'm not going to respond to what I see. I'm not going to respond to the physical symptoms that I see right away. No, I wait. I let it be reinterpreted for me. I allow that to have a new vision coming to me regarding all these steps, all these things that I think are my problems. That is That is the practice. That is the new world work, you could say. If you want to see a new world, this is the practice. So this is what Joel puts in the first chapter. Obedient awareness. So that's not an assertive awareness of, well, let me finish this, let me take care of this problem, let me do this for you. It's like, no, you don't have to do anything except practicing patience and letting things be reinterpreted, otherwise nothing will change. Now this is like a brilliant example of the fact of application. Well, I'm accepting this idea. If I accept the idea of that God is the author of the big script, then I want to be guided in order to know what to do. Because if I make up my story, I know the result of that. And yeah, that's just not looking good. But if I recognize God to be the author of the big picture, then I can ask for guidance and ask him what I'm supposed to do. So that takes away the stress and the tension and the confusion of the authority problem that I walk around with as a human being, thinking that I made myself and that I have to be assertive for myself in order to exist and to keep growing or keep, who knows what my purpose is in my human existence. But I thought this part is essential in this chapter. You might read over it. When you hear the word obedience, you're like, okay, yeah, I know that. No, let's skip that. And I thought like, well, let's not skip that and make it number one. Okay, so these two important points must be carried with you from morning to night and night to morning. Right identification. What is your identity? Do you think that you are who you think that you are? Or do you think that you are as you were created? That's a whole different thing. And reinterpret everything you see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. Reinterpret it as, in fact, first as no information. And then get back into the patience mode. Like, wait a minute. How is this fitting in the big picture? Show me. Translate it into its original state, which is Godhood. Practice right identification. So this is like your communion with God is right identification. My source. I'm an extension of my source. I am that. My source is what happiness is. My source is what pure joy is. My source is what grace is. And my ideas that I might possibly hold about myself have absolutely nothing to do with happiness, with pure joy, with grace. See, all these terms I use is like grace, infinite joy, total happiness is something that doesn't have an opposite. In other words, that is it. That is being connected to your source. That is where you find yourself. It has nothing, it has no opposite. And this is, yeah, an experience. Oh my God. So this is world work then, as it came to me to share, to start with you. It's like, it's very personal in that sense. As you wish, like you can use this for your individual healing by sending in what is bothering you, by sending in like, I have no idea what to do. I read everything and I know what Joel is saying, but here's a problem so in my face, I have no idea what to do with it. And you will never be mentioned by name or anything. So it's always anonymous. It is always generalized, but also it's like, there's a big recognition with anything that you will share, because yeah, nothing is new in that sense. Like, we know the human frame of reference, no problem. So you don't have to be ashamed of anything. That's great, isn't it?